Lucas never expected his day to begin like this. He had planned to fix the minor power leak in the communication hub and enjoy a quiet meal afterward. The diplomatic station was usually calm, almost boring, and that was exactly how he liked it. But when the emergency alert rang across the station, he felt a chill. The alert was not just any signal. It was red, urgent, and came with a voice he had never heard before. "Human Technician Lucas," the message said. "Your presence is requested immediately in the Royal Nursery." Lucas froze. Royal Nursery? That was a place no ordinary human ever entered. Only the Queen and her closest advisors were allowed near the royal child. And the child was rumored to have powers. Dangerous powers. Telepathic powers. The stories told on the station whispered that the baby could project emotions so strong that they would make grown aliens scream, cry, or even faint. Lucas shook his head and rubbed his eyes. He had fixed machines, helped frighten diplomats, even calmed a few small alien children during trade missions. But a royal telepathic infant was something else entirely. Still, he did what he was trained to do. He activated his suit's energy shield, checked his tools, and headed toward the royal wing. When he arrived, the hall was quiet but tense. Guards with strange uniforms and pale blue skin blocked his way. One of them stepped forward. "Lucas," the guard said, his voice low and cautious. "This is not a normal call. You must follow instructions exactly. Do not panic." The child's emotions are unpredictable. Lucas nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand. Just tell me what to do." The guard hesitated. "No one knows. That is why they asked for you. Human resilience is unusual." Lucas blinked. "Resilience?" The guard gave a half-smile. "You can enter the child's emotional space and not collapse. That is why the Queen requested you." 1. Lucas was speechless. He had never thought humans were special in such a way. Yet here he was, about to face an infant whose mind could shake the room. He followed the guard through long corridors that shimmered faintly with alien light. The walls were alive with subtle patterns, moving as if the station itself was breathing. Lucas had seen the technology before, but up close, it made him feel small and strange. Finally, they arrived at a massive door. It pulsed with energy, and Lucas could feel it even through his suit. The guard stopped and gestured. "This is the nursery. Beyond this, the child's presence is intense. Keep calm. Breathe slowly. Do not look afraid." Lucas nodded again, feeling his heart pound. The door opened, and he stepped inside. The room was vast. Light poured from crystal-like panels on the ceiling, reflecting in soft waves across the walls. In the center, a small figure floated slightly above the floor. The baby. Lucas could see it clearly now, tiny, delicate, with skin that shimmered faintly in shades of silver and blue. Its eyes were wide, glowing softly. And then he felt it. A wave of emotion crashed into him, like nothing he had ever experienced. Fear, anger, sadness, joy, confusion. It all came at once, like a storm inside his mind. Lucas stumbled, but held onto the edge of the wall. The baby's emotions reached out, probing, testing. He could see flashes of strange alien worlds, images he could not understand, and yet he felt them all as real. He took a deep breath. One step at a time, one thought at a time. He reminded himself of what he knew. Calm, gentle, steady. The baby was scared. It did not understand itself, and it did not mean to harm him. He repeated a small phrase in his mind, a phrase he had used with a scared child on Earth years ago. "I am here. You are safe. You are not alone." The effect was subtle at first. The storm of feelings dimmed slightly, enough for Lucas to see more clearly. The baby, Liran, tilted its head and watched him with glowing eyes. Lucas moved closer, slowly, never making sudden motions. He lowered himself to the floor, sitting cross-legged, and spoke softly. "Hello, little one. My name is Lucas. I am not here to hurt you. You are safe. I promise." Liran's emotions shifted again, faster this time. Confusion and fear mixed with curiosity. Lucas could feel it as if it were a soft wind against his mind. He smiled gently. "It's okay. You don't need to be scared. I will stay right here." The queen entered the room then. Marilla. Lucas had only seen her in messages and holograms before. She was tall, regal, with silver hair that shimmered like light on water, and eyes that glowed faintly with the same hue as Liran's. She watched from a distance, her expression a mixture of awe and worry. "You are calm," she said softly, almost to herself. No human has ever faced the child directly, without trembling. Quote. Lucas did not respond. He focused on the baby. Liran had begun to float slightly higher, its tiny limbs reaching out in a gesture that felt both defensive and seeking. Lucas extended a hand slowly, palm up, and spoke gently. "You are safe. I will not leave. I will stay with you." For several long moments, nothing changed. Then, slowly, Liran floated down to rest lightly in Lucas's lap. The storm of emotions receded, leaving only faint warmth. Lucas's body relaxed, and he allowed himself a deep breath. Marilla stepped closer, eyes wide. You did it. You calmed her." Lucas felt a rush of relief, but also confusion. I just stayed calm," he said. "I tried to understand her, not fight her." The queen smiled faintly, almost shyly. "In our culture, anyone who can calm the royal air is special. You are more than special, Lucas. You are remarkable." Lucas blinked. "I didn't do anything remarkable. I just listened." Marilla's smile widened slightly, and she stepped closer. "Humans are strange. Gentle, but brave. You risked yourself without thought for reward. That is rare." Lucas did not know what to say. He had expected thanks, perhaps, but not this. Not praise from the queen of an alien empire, not words that seemed to promise something more. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of Liran's energy. The baby now rested in his lap, calm and warm, reaching up to touch his cheek. Lucas smiled softly, careful not to make sudden movements. "You are a good baby," he whispered. Marilla watched them both, a thoughtful expression on her face. She took a step back and spoke in a quieter tone, almost to herself. "In our tradition, someone who calms the air may be offered a place at the side of the family. But humans, they do not understand our ways. Perhaps this one will." Lucas's mind reeled. A place at the side of the family? What did that even mean? He had never thought about being connected to an alien royal family. His life was simple, calm, quiet. And now, he felt a strange mix of pride, fear, and disbelief. "Lucas," Marilla said gently, breaking his thoughts. "I will not force you. You may leave after this. But know this, what you have done today, it changes everything." Lucas nodded slowly. He did not fully understand, but he felt the weight of the moment. He had faced the unknown, calmed a powerful mind, and survived. And in doing so, he had proven something about humans that even the galaxy did not expect. As he stood and handed the baby back to the queen, Liran reached out one last time, touching his hand. Lucas felt warmth spread through him. A quiet bond forming. Fragile, but real. He looked at Marilla, speechless, and realized that his life had just changed forever. The Queen smiled softly, and Lucas swallowed hard. He had no idea what would come next. Marriage? Honor? A place in the alien empire? The thoughts raced through his mind. But for now, he took a deep breath and focused on what mattered. The baby was calm, and he had done the impossible. And in that quiet moment, Lucas realized something important. Humans were stronger than anyone thought. Not because of weapons or machines, but because of their ability to understand, to care, and to stay calm when all else fell apart. For the first time, Lucas felt proud of being human. And he knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. The next morning, Lucas returned to the royal nursery. He had barely slept, his mind buzzing with thoughts he could not shake. The Queen's words from yesterday kept repeating, "What you have done today, it changes everything." He did not know exactly what that meant, but he felt the weight of it. Somehow, he had become more than just a human technician. Somehow, he was now part of something far bigger than himself. The nursery was quiet when he arrived. The guard stepped aside, giving him space. The room smelled faintly of flowers, though Lucas knew the scent came from some alien technology rather than plants. The light from the ceiling panels shimmered softly, casting a gentle glow over everything. And there, in the center of the room, floated Liran, the royal baby. The baby's eyes glowed faintly as Lucas entered. For a moment, Liran seemed tense, small limbs moving slightly as if testing him. Lucas held out his hand slowly, just as he had yesterday. "Good morning, little one," he said softly. "It's me again. You're safe." Liran tilted its head and let out a soft, high-pitched sound. Lucas did not know what the sound meant, but it did not feel like anger or fear. He took a seat on the floor and relaxed, letting the baby float closer. "We can take it slow," he whispered. "No rush." The first hour passed quietly. Lucas simply let the baby observe him. He moved his fingers gently, spoke softly, and kept his breathing even. Slowly, Liran's glow softened, and its tiny arms reached out to touch Lucas's hand. The human could feel warmth spreading from the contact, a connection deeper than words could describe. Queen Marilla watched from a distance. She had not expected Lucas to be so patient, so calm. "Humans are different," she murmured to herself. "They can face things we fear and remain steady. Perhaps this one is the right choice for Liran's future." Lucas did not know the weight of her observation. He was focused entirely on the baby, feeling a strange sense of trust forming between them. Liran's emotions were no longer chaotic. They were small waves, gentle and curious. Lucas responded carefully, letting the baby feel his steadiness, his calm presence. By midday, a routine had formed. Lucas would sit with Liran, speak in soft tones, and simply be present. The baby's glow would dim, and the emotional storms would vanish. He began to notice patterns in Liran's reactions. A soft word would make the glow warm and gentle. A sudden movement would make it flicker nervously. Lucas learned quickly to anticipate the child's feelings, responding with care and patience. During one session, the baby reached out and touched Lucas's face. He felt an unexpected surge of images, flashes of alien skies, strange landscapes, and unfamiliar creatures. But instead of fear, he felt curiosity. Liran was sharing its world with him, showing him things no other human had ever seen. Lucas closed his eyes and allowed the visions to flow, letting himself experience them without panic. When he opened his eyes, the baby's glow was calm. Liran cooed softly, and Lucas smiled. "You're learning to trust me," he said. And I'm learning about you. Queen Marilla entered the room then, her expression soft. You understand her, she said simply. No one else has ever managed this. You are extraordinary, Lucas. Lucas shook his head. I'm just listening, that's all. Marilla smiled faintly. It is more than that. It is courage and patience. Humans carry strength in ways we do not fully understand. Lucas felt a flush of warmth. Praise from the Queen was not something he had ever imagined receiving. But he pushed the thought aside. The baby needed him more than he needed recognition. As the days passed, the bond between Lucas and Liran deepened. The baby began to respond to him before he even spoke, floating closer whenever he entered the room. It reached out with tiny hands, touched his face, or wrapped its small arms around his fingers. Lucas would talk gently, telling stories of Earth, stories of quiet lakes, bright skies, and green forests. The baby listened, and sometimes images of Earth would flow into his mind, as if Liran were imagining what he described. Lucas was careful. He never forced the baby to do anything. He simply allowed Liran to explore, to express, and to trust. And with every session, the infant's telepathic waves became easier to manage. The room no longer shook with wild emotion. Instead, there was calm energy, warm and steady. But not everyone on the station was happy. Rumors spread quickly. Some alien factions whispered that the human had gained influence over the royal heir. Others feared that humans were now too close to the Krell royal family. Messages arrived from distant sectors, questioning why Lucas was allowed such access. One morning, a delegation of Krell nobles arrived. They watched Lucas and Liran carefully, whispering among themselves. This human, he has power over the child, one said. That is dangerous. Queen Marilla stepped forward, her gaze steady. Lucas is not dangerous. He is human. He brings calm, stability, and care. That is a rare gift. The nobles murmured, but Marilla's voice carried authority. They could not argue further. Still, the tension remained. Lucas felt it, though he tried to ignore it. He focused on Liran, knowing the baby's trust was fragile and precious. One evening, as Lucas sat with Liran, the baby reached out and projected a small feeling of sadness. Lucas felt it in his chest, a wave of loneliness that the infant could not name. He spoke softly, "It's okay." The baby's glow shifted, brighter and warmer now. Lucas smiled. See? You're safe. You don't need to be afraid. Marilla entered quietly, watching. She knelt beside him, her presence calm and unobtrusive. You understand the child, she said. And that understanding is what matters. Strength is not only in power. It is in care, in patience, in gentleness. You have shown that, Lucas. Lucas felt a sense of pride, but also a new awareness. He was not just calming a baby. He was building a bridge between two worlds. The human way, simple, gentle, patient, was making a difference in an alien empire. That thought filled him with quiet satisfaction. Days turned into weeks. Lucas visited Liran multiple times each day. He learned more about the baby's moods, its expressions, and the small ways it communicated. Liran began to mimic his movements, reaching out with tiny fingers and touching his hands. Sometimes, the baby projected images of its world, floating cities, glowing plants, strange rivers, and Lucas would imagine them vividly in his mind. During one session, Lucas noticed something surprising. Liran's glow pulsed differently when Marilla entered the room. The baby seemed to recognize her presence and relaxed further. Lucas realized that the child understood more than he had thought. Liran was learning about people, about relationships, about trust, and he was helping guide that learning. One afternoon, a small disturbance occurred. A minor alarm sounded in the station, and the room trembled slightly. The baby reacted instantly, sending a wave of fear into the air. Lucas held it carefully, speaking in calm, steady words. "It's okay. Nothing will hurt you. I am here." The storm of emotions subsided faster than anyone expected. Queen Marilla and the guards watched in astonishment. Lucas had not only protected the baby but had absorbed the shock of the event, shielding Liran from panic. Marilla approached him then, her expression serious but kind. "You have done more than calm the child. You have protected her mind. That is extraordinary, even among humans." Lucas shook his head. "I just stayed calm. I stayed here. That is all I did." Marilla smiled faintly. "And that is enough. Sometimes, that is everything." By the end of the week, Lucas felt a new sense of purpose. He was no longer just a technician. He was part of the baby's life. He had become someone the child trusted, someone who could calm and guide it. And in doing so, he had proven something vital about humans: that their strength was not just in machines, weapons, or strategy, but in their ability to care, to understand, and to remain steady when all else fell apart. Lucas looked at Liran, now sleeping peacefully in a cradle-like hover. He smiled softly. "You are learning to trust me," he whispered, "and I am learning to understand you." Marilla stood nearby, watching silently. She had expected the human to fail, to tremble, to retreat. But Lucas had done none of that. He had faced something terrifying and unknown, and had remained strong. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel hope. Perhaps this human, small and simple in appearance, could be a bridge between their two worlds. Perhaps he could help her empire in ways she had never imagined. And Lucas, unaware of the thoughts in the Queen's mind, simply focused on the baby. Every small gesture, every quiet word, every calm presence was a step towards something bigger, something that might change not just the nursery, but the future of the galaxy itself. Lucas had grown used to the rhythm of the nursery. Each day, he entered with quiet steps, greeted Liran with a soft word, and spent hours simply being present. The baby had calmed considerably, its telepathic storms now gentle and predictable. Lucas could feel Liran's small, curious emotions as if they were a part of him. The trust between them was growing. Yet, despite the calm, a quiet tension lingered in the back of Lucas's mind. Queen Marilla had asked him to stay close to Liran, but she had not explained everything. He understood that he had impressed her, perhaps even gained her trust, but he did not know how far her gratitude or her culture's traditions might extend. That afternoon, Marilla approached him as he held Liran. The baby floated lightly above the floor, reaching out for Lucas's hand. Marilla's presence was calm, serene, yet it carried authority. "Lucas," she said softly, "there is something I need to explain, something important." Lucas looked at her, sensing the weight in her voice. "Yes, Your Majesty?" he asked carefully, trying to remain polite. She nodded. "In our culture, the person who calms the royal heir is honored. More than honored, sometimes offered a place at the side of the ruling family. It is a tradition that has existed for centuries. It is not merely a reward, it is a promise of partnership, if the one chosen is willing." Lucas froze. His mind raced, trying to comprehend her words. "A partnership?" he asked slowly. Marilla's eyes softened. "Yes, marriage, in your language, but it is not forced. The choice is always yours. You have calmed Liran. You have proven patience, courage, and care. These are qualities we value above all else. That is why I tell you now." Lucas felt his throat tighten. He had expected gratitude, perhaps some recognition, but not this. Not an offer of marriage to an alien queen he had barely met. not a responsibility that could change the course of his life forever. He looked at Liran, the baby floating above his hands, calm and trusting. Could he accept such a promise? Did he even want to? I need time, he said finally, his voice quiet. I have never thought about something like this. Marilla smiled faintly. Of course. You are human. You are not expected to understand immediately. But know this, your presence here, your care for Liran, has already changed things. Even without a decision, you have impacted our world. Lucas nodded, though his mind was still racing. He spent the rest of the day quietly with the baby, avoiding his usual chatter with Marilla. Liran reached for him, cooing softly, and he responded with gentle words and calm presence. The bond between them was undeniable, yet the weight of the Queen's words pressed on him. The following days were not easy. News of Lucas's connection with Liran spread quickly across the station. Whispers floated through the halls. Some aliens were curious, others suspicious. A few diplomats questioned the Queen's judgment. A human? They said among themselves. Allowing him near the air is dangerous. Marilla ignored the whispers. She focused on Liran, who continued to thrive under Lucas's care. She observed him closely, noting his patience, his calmness, and his quiet courage. The more she watched, the more she realized that humans possessed a strength her people often lacked. A quiet, enduring resilience that came not from power, but from care. Lucas felt the tension too. During one session, he noticed the guards glancing at him more than usual. Marilla was present, but the air in the room was charged with quiet suspicion. He remained calm, speaking gently to Liran, feeling the baby's emotions shift and settle as he held its tiny hands. You are doing well? Marilla said softly as he handed Liran a small toy-like device that hovered and made soft sounds. You are teaching her trust, even in the face of fear. That is rare. One by Saf. One by Saf. One by Saf. Lucas smiled faintly. She trusts me because I stay calm. That is all I can do. Nothing more. Marilla studied him, her expression thoughtful. You underestimate yourself, your humanity, your patience, your courage. These are gifts. They are what make you extraordinary. They are why the tradition of partnership exists. Not for power, not for wealth, but because someone who can calm the air can also guide the future with care. Lucas felt a mixture of pride and discomfort. He had not asked for this. He had not sought recognition or reward. He had simply stayed calm, cared for a child, and done what he thought was right. And now, because of that, he was being offered something that could change his life forever. He spent the next few days reflecting. He walked the station at night, looking at the stars beyond the transparent walls. Humans were small in the galaxy, often overlooked. Yet here he was, impacting the life of an alien empire. He thought of Earth, of simple things, trees, rivers, quiet nights, and felt a deep sense of connection. Perhaps humanity was stronger than he had realized. Perhaps their strength was not in power, but in care, understanding, and resilience. One afternoon, Lucas returned to the nursery to find Liran floating near the ceiling, cooing softly. The baby reached out as he entered, and he instinctively lowered himself to its level. He spoke gently, describing the earth sky, the soft winds, and the calm lakes. Liran's glow pulsed softly, and Lucas could feel the infant's curiosity and trust. Marilla entered quietly, her eyes observing him. You have formed a bond, she said. A bond. Deeper than I anticipated. Humans are remarkable. Lucas looked up at her, unsure of how to respond. I just care. That is all I do. Marilla nodded. And that is enough. Sometimes, caring is stronger than any weapon or strategy. You have shown that strength, Lucas. You have shown it through action, not words. The bond between Lucas and Liron grew stronger with each passing day. The baby began to mimic his movements, reaching for his hands, copying his expressions. Lucas would tell small stories of Earth, and Liron would respond, projecting small images of its world in return. He learned about the alien landscapes, the glowing plants, and floating rivers of the Krell Empire. In return, he shared the simple, quiet beauty of his home planet. Yet Lucas could not ignore the tension building outside the nursery. Some of the nobles were openly skeptical, questioning why a human was allowed near the heir. They feared that humans could gain influence over the royal family, and they whispered of political consequences. One evening, as Lucas prepared to leave the nursery, Marilla stopped him. "Lucas," she said softly, "there will be challenges. Some will not understand your presence here. Some may even try to remove you. But remember this: you have already shown strength. Calm, care, and patience are your allies. Trust in them." Lucas nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He realized that his role was no longer simple. He was part of something bigger, something that could shape the future of the Empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself. As he left the nursery, Liron reached out one last time, brushing his hand with tiny fingers. Lucas felt warmth spread through him, a quiet reminder of the trust he had earned. He smiled softly, knowing that the bond they shared would guide him through the challenges ahead. Marilla watched him go, her expression unreadable. She understood that humans were unpredictable. But in Lucas, she had seen something rare, a quiet strength that could endure chaos, protect the vulnerable, and face the unknown without fear. Perhaps, she thought, this human was the one who could change everything. That night, Lucas stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, full of mystery and danger. Yet, for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose. He was not just a human technician anymore. He was someone who could make a difference, someone whose calm and care could shape the life of an empire, and perhaps even the fate of two worlds. He did not know what the future held. The Queen's offer, the whispers of nobles, the challenges of Liron's growth, all of it was uncertain. But Lucas knew one thing. He would face it with the same patience and courage he had shown the baby. And that, he realized, was the true power of humanity.